The data shows a big spike in emotional tension hitting us on the 15th. Early in the morning on the 15th, it runs through the whole day, and it keeps building tension until about 1:15 in the morning on the 16th. Okay, very much USA centered. Okay, so we have a lot more USA language than we do, like, EU or individual countries in Europe, or even more than Israel. But we don't have a whole lot of pointers to something on the 15th happening in a specific place. Now the RV guys, the remote viewing guys, Dick Allgire's group, right, Future Forecasting, I've worked with them. They're very accurate. Dick Allgire scares the absolute crap out of me in terms of the ability of stuff that he's able to, or his ability to pull stuff out of the ether. And so I have a tendency to take their descriptions as being very shading towards accurate. We could look at it as a questioning, okay, a questioning of what had happened. My data sets are pegging it for the 15th. Could be on the 10th, could be on the 18th, right? The data sets themselves, the centric nature of the time being on the 15th is not an absolute. The relationship between what happens on the 15th and what happens on the 16th is very solid. And so I expect that one would flow into the other, but it might happen, as I say, on the 10th, or it could happen on the 18th. We record the absolute hell out of this, right? So whatever the event is, there is a capture to data component of it that makes the nature of the event having happened an absolute certainty. So what does this mean for humans? And so that's what's coming across in relation to this event that I've got pegged on the 15th and the 16th. Now, the data sets, if we look at this numerically, we're looking at a building tension value, and I'm just going to use round numbers. These are not the actual digits that I get, because those would be meaningless to everybody else, but I just want to show a comparison here, okay? And so, the morning of the 15th until around 1:15 in the morning on the 16th, so a little bit longer, so 25 hours and some odd minute kind of a thing, we have building tension. And then on the 16th, we have release tension. The building tension, if we say it went to 1,000, then the release tension values only go back down about 600 or 700 out of that 1,000 to return, or to leave us with a residual of over 300 in a numeric value for this. Okay, so again, the values are just relative to each other. There's no definitive metric for the individual value itself. Okay, this residual carries forward from the 16th, and it keeps going all through the rest of the year, because we get into more building tension, more release, building tension, and so on, right? So it's a constant up and down, up and down, up and down kind of a thing. This is very unusual that we have a day on the 15th where building tension so dominates that it looks like a giant spike straight up, because usually these things are very fuzzy. You got a little bit of building tension and a lot of release, and then a little bit of building tension and a lot more release, or the opposite. It just goes up and down all the time. And so there is a hint in the data that we will have about 10% of humanity involved in thinking about this, dealing with it, reacting to it, or whatever, by the end of the year. There's also stuff in the data that suggests we're going to get a formal response, in the sense of like officialdom, that will decide, okay, we're going to hire people and pay them to think about this. But the data sets are very clear that it is unseen, but it is known. It's invisible. We could not look at it and see it, yet we have all this information about it. Okay, so our emergence into this new situation post-event is a lot more described in terms of the emotional impacts than I get around the event itself. So that is also a little bit atypical in terms of the way that the programming usually rolls out the data for me. The nature of the RV stuff, the remote viewing that Dick Allgire's group has produced, has led me to think that, okay, it's not going to be a strictly financial event, that there will be some level of physical motion, kinetic activity that's associated with this. Now, that does not mean that there won't be a financial event. It just means that this financial event will not be it 100%.